we have returned to the Forest of Enchantments to explore the lightest and darkest forest spaces that we can possibly find. This chapter is quieter, so you can relax with us and enjoy some ASMR forest sounds. And I do hope that you like wolves, Wild One, because my little spooky familiars are with us today as we go deeper and deeper into the forest. This is Strawberry Moonpaw, and she is an expert fairy finder. We have come back to the fairy glade, hoping to see the fairies having their first breakfast, or even second breakfast. But alas, we are too late, as the fairy canteen is empty and strewn with the apples they left behind. Messy fairies. Shall we play a little trick, Wild One, and set a humane fairy trap? Fairies love to fly and feel safest in the treetops, which is why it is so rare to see them near the ground. So let's put a little snack in this spooky-looking tree and tempt them to come out to play with us. We left the fairies to play their tricks, and we made our way to the Selkie's Lagoon. Strawberry soon picked up a Selkie scent. She stopped at a leafy opening. We went through and arrived at the Selkie's Lagoon. We settled down on the tree trunk, which had fallen in a perfect place for cosy cups of hot chocolate. In folklore, a Selkie is a magical being that can take on the form of a human, but can also shed its magical skin to transform into a seal. Their seal skin holds the power of transformation, and these folk tales are often poignant reminders of the nostalgia that we feel when we miss our loved ones and our home. For the Selkie knows that its true home is always the ocean. I follow the witches' Sabbaths, and as we are now in the Sabbath called Samhain, I wanted to do an old Celtic release ritual. I release any negativity that may be attached to me. I chose some leaves before carrying them to the water's edge, where I imagined these were things in my life that I wanted to let go of. I spoke my intention and laid the leaves into the lagoon and allowed the current to carry them away with a peaceful and natural rhythm. Our intuition led us to somewhere that we had never been before. Strawberry reminded me of the magic of simple playfulness. She wanted to catch the leaves as they floated along the water's surface, but they were always just a little bit faster than she was. Oh. Ready to go? Yeah. We continued on and found ourselves in a mysterious woodland nook, full of fallen tree trunks and hanging vines. The trees had fallen in the shape of an X, which reminded us of the rune Gabo, also known as the gift rune. Perhaps this is a forest altar where gifts can pass through the veil. The fairies had ported my treasures to me again. So I set the gift down on the forest altar to see what was inside. An owl made of carnelian to remind me to use my intuition to see even in darkness. A fairy wish to use wisely. And of course they wouldn't forget my magical ring. Golden calcite for self-worth and creative expression. My special fluorite, perfect for healing work. And the crystals of the sun and of the moon, a reminder of the lessons of balance learned during the last Sabbath of Mabon. I set all of the treasures and trinkets down on the forest altar before using my fluorite to send some healing energy to someone I love. Meanwhile, the fairies were spying on Strawberry. So we decided to follow the little clues to see if we could locate where they were hiding today. I think we found a fairy cave. Spooky hello. Oh, God, I hope nothing else is back. Ready, come. It was now time to leave the fairy caves and wander to our next enchanted destination. We came to a clearing, and the area felt alive with energy. A storm was coming in, and the wind was already starting to shift and spin. The branches waved, and there was a feeling of Samhain magic that I cannot describe, a feeling of anticipation and changes yet to come. Strawberry wagged her tail with excitement, for she could feel it too. The autumn leaves were like a guiding pathway, so we followed their colourful trail. We clambered over ancient roots and found where the magic had been calling us from. The spirit of nature was whispering to us here. We found beautiful berries and fairy pumpkins. I felt it was time to connect to the darkness, so we journeyed to the dark half of the forest. Here I made my magical altar of moons and stars, and I welcomed the darker months in. I didn't use a real candle, as I wanted to respect the forest and would never wish to cause harm to it, so I used a little battery-operated tea light instead. I added the sun and the moon crystals as reminders of the need for balance and how important the memory of light is when in dark times. This place reminds me of Sleepy Hollow, so I sat amongst the spiders and the gothic-looking trees, whereupon I thought I would try my hand at some old divination, where you peel an apple in one movement without breaking it, then throw it on the ground to see what initial it makes. It used to be used to predict the name of a person's future lover.
The Celts must have been better at this than me. Oops. No way, we will take it all with us. Countryside code. Always leave things as you found it. No litter.
I guess I shall be a Baba Yaga and live in a hut on my own in the woods. Just in case you were worried about Strawberry, I did give her some apple and also a nice lunch after this, which she enjoyed in the tranquility of the forest. Seemingly out of nowhere, a hazelnut appeared on my blanket, which is a Celtic symbol of wisdom and knowledge. A gift from the forest, perhaps. The storm was coming in and the rain had already started, so we packed up all of our belongings and headed back home for more hot chocolate and spooky tales. We sheltered under the forest canopy and made one last pit stop at the fairy grove. And guess what, Wild One? The apple had mysteriously vanished. I hope you have enjoyed our time this week in the Forest of Enchantments, Wild One, but now it is time to head home for a ghost story. I'll see you there. I believe there is a story to be told about almost anything that you can imagine, and as I have worked on each chapter of my series, I have thought more and more about the importance of nurturing the childlike wonder and imagination that we were all born with so that we never lose it. I have been imagining what it would have been like to try real chocolatl, which was a hot chocolate drink enjoyed by the Mayans and Aztecs. The word choqui was Aztec for warmth, and as cacao beans were revered and chocolate was considered a gift of the gods, it is no surprise that they were pioneers of hot chocolate. Chili peppers were valued by the Maya and Aztec cultures as food, medicine, and also used for protection against evil energies. In the Aztec culture, chilies were rubbed on the feet of babies to ensure good health and burned at funerals to ward off dark entities. With this theme in mind, I am making chili hot chocolate. I used what I already had, but you could make this much more authentic and velvety. Even instant hot chocolate, oat milk, and chili powder, when tailored to your own taste buds, feels rather decadent on a stormy autumn day, and certainly perfect to accompany ghost stories at bedtime. As I shared my ghost story with you in my last video, I was reminded of other little spooky situations. So this week I will tell you of the compilation of strange events that have happened to me. There will be no jump scares or elaborations, but perhaps that is what's most important. Because maybe if we all shared our strange supernatural stories without feeling a pressure to make them interesting, more strange happenings would be revealed, as I'm quite sure there's more to life than a purely material or physical world. I told you last time of the entity in my apartment, but I also have another experience which is similar in nature and which happened to me when I was a child. I was roughly 6 or 7, and I woke in the night. Back in those days, I used to sleep upon my stomach, and so I pushed myself up on my hands and then twisted around, away from the pillow, to look out into the room as I readjusted. But upon doing so, I saw a man sat upon my bed. As with my last story, I am sure that I was not asleep. The man was not a physical human being, but was an entity made of static. He had dark skin, and to this day, what I remember most were his eyes. They were staring at me with such depth. He had a haunting gaze, and he was definitely looking right at me. It seemed as though he must have been sat watching me as I slept, just watching me in silence. I didn't notice what he was wearing, but I did notice that he would have been very tall, and he was also very thin, his big brown eyes sort of hollowly staring onwards with his fixed gaze. I don't know whether these beings are able to speak or move their expressions, as he just continued to look at me without speaking, moving, or even blinking. I was a young child and I was shocked, so I threw a reactionary kick towards his spectral body and turned away to burrow into my pillow with my duvet over my head. I still remember how hot I was as I hid under my duvet for many hours until I finally fell asleep. I talked to my mother about this in the morning, and we could not identify who this ghost may have been. Obviously, it is easy to debunk this as a child's imagination or dreaming, and for a long time I did just this, until my experience in my apartment, which I shared on my last video. Because the composition of both figures, the static hologram appearance, was the same, and I have since heard other people describe ghost sightings in the same way. So that was my first experience. My second experience. Now, in my childhood home, we had multiple pets over the years, especially cats, as my mum and I would often feed or take in the homeless cats until we had no more room to do so. One fascinating feline was Mr. Milo, who came to live with us when I was 16. He was a slinky chap resembling a Burmese. He was jet black, but in the sunlight you could see that he was actually darkest brown with black tabby stripes, but from a distance he looked like the stereotypical witch's cat. Unfortunately, there were a lot of homeless black cats, as people are still superstitious, seeing them as bad omens. We always loved them, and I think they are sleek and beautiful. Mr. Milo was a cat with a particular set of skills, you might say, and though you may laugh, wild one, there were 1 or 2 occasions where he definitely knew there was something or someone else in the house. The first occasion was on a beautiful summer's day, and Milo and I were in my mum's bedroom playing. We heard the sound of cats rushing up the carpeted stairs, paws on carpet, claws in a tearing hurry. We turned around expecting to see the other cats, and we followed them into my bedroom, but nothing was there. Milo was as confused as I was and was looking around. We had investigated all of the rooms, but it had only been us. Obviously, over the years, many cats have lived out their lives there. So, was it like the stone tape theory? A glitch in time? Or a recording of a moment from long ago etched into the walls or the ether? Or did we just both hallucinate? The noise had surprised us both, so I am quite sure we were both reacting to the same trigger, and it was not the case that Milo reacted to my surprise. The second time was another evening, when Mr. Milo and I were sat in the living room watching TV with my mum. There were 2 sofas arranged in an L shape to face the fireplace, and the other open side was towards the window so that whomever sat on each of the sofas could always have a view out of the bay window. It was night time, and the curtains were closed, and we were all relaxing when Milo and I both reacted to the sound of a disembodied cough. It sounded like the cough of a man. Now my mother did not hear it, but Milo got up from the fireplace and very tentatively and curiously walked towards the air in front of the curtains and stared at what would have been eye level if a human had physically stood there. He was not bristled, but he was definitely on edge, and it was some time before he settled back down. I thought it strange that it was Milo and I who shared these 2 experiences. That house had strange energy in it. I often felt uncomfortable on the landing and on the stairs, or if I was alone in the living room and the dining room. But let's fast forward to the end of August 2014, when I was living in a shared house in a city in England. I'd gone to bed, and I woke up to see a dark mass standing over me. Intuitively, I felt like this mass resembled the outline of my friend from back home. It alarmed me, but I went back to sleep, and when I woke up and thought about it, I dismissed it. I thought that maybe my eyes were playing tricks on me in the dark, especially because my friend was very much alive. 3 weeks went by, and unfortunately I got a call from my friend's mother to say that they had died in the hospital, which was only 2 miles from where I was house sharing. I hadn't known they were in the city or that they were seriously ill. Was this an omen that my subconscious brought to my attention in the night as a harbinger of my friend's death? Was my friend having an out-of-body experience before their death? I often think that it was the latter, as it felt like them and the energy looked like their shape, but I shall obviously never know. My last story is in 2017, when I lived in a little market town in Civil Parish called Highworth. If you Google Highworth, Wiltshire, you will see that it has a 13th century church, and the town, which is listed in the Doomsday Book, has been occupied for around 4,000 years. I lived in a large apartment on the High Street, which had been full of clutter until I moved in. The flat had some issues and their carpet needed to be replaced, and it was an old building, probably Georgian at the front, but much older with cottage-style stone walls towards the back. The bedroom felt to me to be almost like a cave, and the back part of the house was very cold. I had moved for a new job, and as I tried to settle in, I felt more and more as if I was being watched. Now there were no surveillance cameras, nothing like that. It just always felt as if I was not alone in there. The feeling grew so intense that I stopped using the back part of the property and lived as if in a bedsit within the living room area. The The bathroom, however, was unfortunately towards the back of the property down a long hallway, and this was where the energy felt off somehow. I used to feel as if I was being watched when in the shower, or that if I turned a corner there would be someone in the bathroom. Impossible, as I was all alone and the landlords never bothered me or entered the property without my permission. I found the move stressful and felt like a fish out of water, so I put the strange atmosphere down to my state of being and dismissed the creepy vibes. I was lucky to find another apartment when my lease was up, so at the end of a very long, hard 6 months I was finally able to leave. The morning of the day I was moving was the moment that I realised that I probably hadn't been far wrong and that there was something very strange going on. So a detail that I haven't mentioned yet is that I had a little hamster called Ted, and he moved everywhere with me in his little hamster cage. Ted had not been very well and had a tumour which was successfully operated on, so I was keen to look after him carefully, and especially as the flat was bitterly cold and drafty and there was often deep snow outside. So I would put Ted in the hallway where the energy seemed a bit weird, but keep in mind that I'd shrugged this off and told myself I was projecting and being illogical. There was a very good heater in the hall, and in this one spot Ted would be just the right temperature, so at night he stayed there whilst I slept in the living room where it was very cold. Now you already know that I have a little amethyst. In fact, it is the one that you saw amongst my fairy treasure in the Forest of Enchantments in last week's episode. And I would put this amethyst on top of Ted's cage every night when I moved his cage into the warm spot in the hallway. I hoped that it would provide healing energy to him even though it was on the top of the cage and not in it. As you will likely know, hamster cages have very thin gaps between the bars, and the amethyst is about 6 or 7 times bigger than the gap between them. On the last day, the very final morning, I woke up relieved to be finally leaving this place. I got up to check on Ted and to go towards the bathroom. But when I got to his cage, the amethyst crystal was gone. It was no longer on top of the cage. I picked up Ted's cage to move him to a safe spot whilst we got ready to load up the moving van, and as I did so, I became eye level with the top level of his cage, and sat next to his food bowl, fully inside the cage, was the amethyst. Now I would never put a crystal inside the cage, as hamsters gnaw, and I wouldn't want him to come to harm, nor harm my special crystal. So somehow it had ported whilst I was asleep, from the top of the cage, into the cage itself, and onto the top level next to his food dish and his little house. Meanwhile, Ted seemed to be unawares of this spooky event. And that is my final tale of the night. Nothing terrifying, but curious and unsettling when it happens to you, I can assure you. Do you have any spooky or strange stories to share, Wild One? If so, please do add to the comments. Now, I think I will go and make another chilly hot chocolate. Thank you for watching. Happy Samhain to you, Wild One. Next week on Wild Wish, I share my wishes for my channel with you. Well, it's not only my channel, but your channel too, Wild One, and I am so grateful that you are here with me on this journey of ours. We will explore the folk tales and spirituality of the moon, following the beaver moon, which is this Wednesday. So don't forget to consider what you want to prepare for this winter, and also what self-limiting beliefs you'll let go of as you look up at that beautiful beaver moon in the night sky. Just perhaps you might feel confident to share your thoughts about lunar magic in the comments section. Meanwhile, I will share my thoughts about synchronicities, which for me are a very important element of the magic of this wondrous universe. And also, I make a witch's brew using traditional herbs for the Samhain season, and we will generally be cozy and also magical. So as always, Wild One, thank you for watching, like if you like, and subscribe if you vibe.